President Volodymyr Zelensky said he is ready to meet Vladimir Putin in Turkey after Donald Trump asked Ukraine to agree to direct peace talks with Russia. Zelensky said he would wait for Putin in Turkey on May 15th, shortly after the Russian president offered to restart direct peace negotiations. Zelensky, in a post on X, also said that Ukraine expected a full ceasefire to start on Monday, as pressed by the European leaders, in order to provide the necessary basis for diplomacy to end the war. Trump said he is skeptical of a deal between Russia and Ukraine and demanded that Kyiv immediately agree to direct peace talks with Moscow in Istanbul. He claimed Putin does not want to have a ceasefire and instead wants to negotiate a possible end to the bloody war. Trump said, President Putin of Russia doesn't want to have a ceasefire agreement with Ukraine, but rather wants to meet on Thursday in Turkey to negotiate a possible end to the bloodbath. Ukraine should agree to this immediately. Putin proposed holding direct peace talks with Ukraine on Saturday after getting an ultimatum to agree to a temporary ceasefire. He said he wants to hold direct talks with Ukraine in Turkey on May 15th. The dictator said, "It was not Russia that broke off negotiations in 2022. It was Kyiv." Nevertheless, we are proposing that Kyiv resume direct negotiations without any preconditions. Despite everything, we offer the Kyiv authorities to resume negotiations already on Thursday in Istanbul. Ukraine and 4 European leaders pressed Russia to accept a 30-day unconditional ceasefire starting Monday or face painful sanctions. The ultimatum was given after talks in Kyiv attended by President Zelensky and the leaders of Britain, France, Germany, and Poland. The U.S. and other countries backed the proposal, they said. Zelensky said on Sunday that Ukraine's proposal of a ceasefire starting on Monday remained on the table and that Kyiv was still waiting for a response from Russia. Speaking in his evening address, he said Ukrainian forces would be ready to respond symmetrically if Russian troops violated the ceasefire. Moscow has not committed to abiding by the 30-day ceasefire proposed by European powers on Saturday. Trump suggested that a direct meeting between Kyiv and Moscow would help determine whether or not a deal is possible. He added, if peace deal is not possible, at least the US and Europe would know where things stand. I'm starting to doubt that Ukraine will make a deal with Putin, who's too busy celebrating the victory of World War LL, which could not have been won, not even close, without the United States of America. Have the meeting now. Moscow paraded nukes, tanks, drones, and armed troops past dozens of world leaders in a show of strength to mark 80 years since the end of World War II. Putin whipped up patriotism in Russia's biggest military display since launching its invasion, but Ukraine slammed it as a parade of cynicism. A string of foreign leaders attended the annual Victory Day parade in Moscow's Red Square, including China's Xi Jinping and Brazil's Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva. Putin took the mic to claim that peace and justice are on our side, and that Russia is united behind the war in Ukraine. Putin, who has repeatedly bombed civilians in Ukraine and was accused of breaking the three-day ceasefire, said Kyiv failed to respond to his peace proposals. His statement came just before a massive swarm of kamikaze drones attacked Ukraine in the morning hours of May 11th. Explosions rocked Kyiv, Zhytomyr, Donetsk, and Mykolaiv in the early hours as Putin's drones hammered civilian targets and military sites. It comes after Sir Keir Starmer joined leaders from France, Germany, and Poland to issue a tough ultimatum to Russia as they visited war-torn Kyiv to mark the end of VE Day week. The coalition of the Willing Group pushed Russia to agree to a 30-day ceasefire deal in just 24 hours. If Moscow refuses, it will be hit with more crippling sanctions which targets their lucrative oil trade in a bid to grind down its wartime economy. Russia's banking sector will also be targeted. Crucially, Donald Trump backed the plan, piling massive pressure on Putin to sign up to the peace deal or face America's wrath. But Russian figures immediately hit back at the peace plan. Dmitry Medvedev, the former leader of Russia, fumed online. Shove these plans into your pan-gender *********. Last week, Washington announced it would no longer act as the mediator to negotiate a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine after Putin refused to accept a full ceasefire. The State Department said the country is changing the methodology of how we contribute to the talks and will no longer fly around the world at the drop of a hat for meetings.